Good afternoon. This is a continuation of our morning session. For the purpose of land use, it's 1 o'clock. We're coming back out of recess. Emily, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Thayer?
Here.
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder?
Here.
All righty, we have a quorum. We had several items on the schedule today. The first is an application that had been withdrawn. It was County Road 166 Storage LLC. Is that, I assume that's still the case?
Yes, that's still the case.
So if they want to pursue this or any other application on that land, they'd have to start from scratch, notice, correct, community meetings, etc.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All righty, so moving on, we do have two hearings we'll hold today. One is a special use by review for a SpaceX antenna. The other is a final plat for the Elora subdivision. Both of the hearings will follow the same general agenda. Excuse me. Staff will present the application. We'll give an opportunity for the applicant to add any other information they feel is pertinent. We may or may not have questions for staff or the applicant at that time. Then we'll open for public comment. After public comment, again, we'll ask the applicant and or staff to respond to what we've heard. We may have some questions, and then we'll proceed to deliberation, and on each, we may continue if we do not feel we've got enough information to come to a final conclusion. We may approve with conditions or disapprove an application. But for the SUR, that hearing is for essentially not a use by right, but a use that is contemplated within the zoning and would have some other restrictions or special considerations that have to be looked at prior to approval. So with that, if we're ready, I'll ask that we get a motion to open the hearing for the SpaceX special review.
Mr. Chair, I move that we open a public hearing on SpaceX special use by review, case number SUR-2023-28773.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open a public hearing for SpaceX special use by review. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. We're in public hearing. All righty, Kelsey, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, Kelsey Lanham with the Elbert County Planning Department, and I will be presenting SpaceX Special Use by Review, case number SUR 2023-28773. The applicant is requesting approval of a special use by review for the installation of an additional 32 antenna and an extension of the already existing satellite compound at 29235 North Elbert Road. A little bit of background on the property. The existing compound received approval in 2021. The existing compound is known as 29235 North Elbert Road, but the overall property that the compound is on is known as 28773 North Elbert Road, and staff is recommending approval. The applicant is Lena Strauss with Dewberry Engineering. Their pre-application meeting was in October of 2023. The full application was submitted in June of this year. This case went to Planning Commission on October 1st and received a 8-0 vote for a recommendation of approval. And here we are today at the Board of County Commissioners, October 23rd. Noticing was completed in accordance with the zoning regulations as well. So in the next 3 slides, I will use the red star to show where the property is. This first map is just a very broad overview of where the subject property is located. It is approximately 4.5 miles to the south of Kiowa and 5 miles north of the town of Elbert. The overall subject property is owned by Carnahan Ranches, and the total acreage of the property is just over 2,500 acres. And here is the zoning map. I outlined the perimeter of the subject property in yellow. Like I said, the acreage is just over 2,500, meaning that the closest property line from the satellite compound is over a quarter-mile away. And this is their SUR exhibit. The proposed antenna will be adjacent to the existing compound. Like I mentioned, it is an additional 32 antenna. These antenna will be able to provide a broader bandwidth for internet services across Elbert County. The proposed addition will be fenced in with the same chain link fence material that is already on site. And an additional access road and parking area is proposed, and that existing road is to be expanded to 20 feet wide. All the access roads and pathways will be maintained so that they remain clear for maintenance and emergency responders if needed. In addition to providing a broader bandwidth for the county, the applicant has confirmed that SpaceX is willing to donate 2 or 3 Starlink devices to the Elbert County Office of Emergency Management Department. These devices will provide remote satellite internet access anywhere in Elbert County, which is, highly beneficial in rural areas. So just wanted to highlight that because sometimes land use applications have a little surprise to them. These are the referral agencies that received and reviewed the application. All agencies did respond, and there are no outstanding objections. With that, the Elbert County zoning regulations determines that a special use by review permit must follow the review criteria set forward in Article 3, Section E5, and those 8 criteria are as follows. A, the use is in harmony and compatible with surrounding area and neighborhood. The proposed use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area. There is an existing compound that has been in place since 2021, and although the surrounding uses are agricultural driven, the proposed use is compatible and beneficial to the area. B, the use will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure. There is no infrastructure on the property that will be affected. C, the use will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. The proposed use will not increase traffic or burden the existing road system. Elbert County Public Works was a referral agency for this application, had no objections. And like I mentioned, the property has an existing access road that will be kept clear for maintenance and emergency services. D, the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. The proposed use will not cause any of the pollution. E, all sanitation requirements will be met. No sanitation is being proposed. The use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. The proposed use will not be landscape buffered or screened. The existing compound has a chain link fencing around the site, and the proposed SUR will continue with the same fencing material for their installation. G, the use will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. The proposed use will not be detrimental to those present or future of Elbert County. The proposed use will supply Elbert County residents with internet services over a large bandwidth area. And like I mentioned, SpaceX is willing to donate the 2 or 3 Starlink devices to increase overall service around the county as well. H, supplemental standards are met for specific uses as applicable, and all supplemental standards have been met. Elbert County Planning staff recommends approval to the Board of County Commissioners for special use by review application SUR 2023-28773 with the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign within 7 days of approval by the Board of County Commissioners. Number 2, the special use by review shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the SUR exhibit is recorded. And 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioners approval. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant is in person today and is available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. I have no questions. Any questions for staff? Nope. So I'd ask the applicant wrap up. If you could speak in the mic, just so we capture it for the record. Thank you.
SpaceX and Dewberry Engineers, Inc. I do want to confirm that we will be donating 3 user terminals to emergency services, and the facility will be unmanned with the exception of once a month. Maintenance will be conducted.
Alrighty. The conditions that were presented, are those acceptable to you? Okay.
Yes.
Any questions for the applicant? So Mr. Musk won't be presenting today? No? Okay. When we heard the applicant was presenting, we'd have an opportunity to meet him. I don't think so, yeah. So with that, I'll open for public comment. I don't believe we have any in the room, so I'll close public comment. The applicant has indicated they would accept the conditions of approval, and the county certainly appreciates the donation of the 3 terminals. That's wonderful. With that, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve SpaceX special use by review, case number SUR 2023-28773, with the conditions of approval as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve with the conditions as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So you're approved. Thank you. I'll accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chair, I move we close the public hearing on SpaceX special use by review, case SUR 2023-28773.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're out of public hearing. Do we need a few moments to switch over? Okay. We'll just hold a brief recess while we reset for the next hearing. That ends our recess. Looks like we're ready to go. This hearing will follow the same kind of agenda as the last, but a little different in that it is a final plat, so we have already heard zoning and preliminary plats. This is really the very technical details of layouts of parcels, etc. So with that, I would ask for a motion to open public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move we open the hearing for Elora final plat FP 2023-2003.
We have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Elora final plat FP 2023-2003. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
There we go. Sorry. Good afternoon, Chairman and Commission members. As you've already identified it, it's the Elora final plat. I am Sandra Hoffman. I'm a community planner for Elbert County that I'm working out of. I'm out of the Logan Simpson office. So the location of the site, as you already mentioned, has gone through a plan unit development approval as well as a preliminary plat approval. And it's in the northwest corner of Elbert County. Basically, it consists of 196.8 acres and has a variety of uses, commercial and residential on it, and some open space. The yellow coloring area is the site. You can show the Elora project there. To the north is Arapahoe County, but it's also been annexed into the city of Aurora, and there's a future project up there called the Trails at Overland Ranch. And then to the northwest, it's the city of Aurora, has a master plan community already existing there, and to the west is Douglas County. And they have a Piney Lake project that they're proposing to the west. So this is the actual image of the plat. It's a lot of fine detailed line work in there, but it kind of shows you that the majority of the lots are in the northern portion, northwestern portion of the site, and the southern part is going to be left open and undisturbed pretty much. This is a trails plan. It shows you with the red line squiggling through everything. That shows that it has some connectivity to the south and around the site. And then they have some green trails that sort of circulate between the park systems that they have. They will be meeting the conservation subdivision requirements with at least 50% open space. And on the far right east side, there's a big circle area around a drainage area. And then to the right of that actually is a lift station site that we'll talk a little bit later about the City of Aurora's infrastructure improvements that'll be included with the project. So for the notification and for the history of the project, there was a pre-application meeting for the overall project in December of 23. They've had multiple community meetings, but the one I noted up there was January 9th of 24. The preliminary plat came in May 8th of 2024, and so it's been moving forward through different referrals and coordination. This one needed a little extra coordination because of its proximity to the City of Aurora, Arapahoe County, and Douglas County, but we did a great job, I think, with the applicant and all of the staff in those different jurisdictions being part of working through all the different plans that came in with the final plat. The referrals, again, were sent out. The applicants worked out an agreement with Douglas County School District for some fee in lieu, and they have a contract signed for that already. And all of the comments that we were provided have been addressed. A history of notification. The notification requirements were met per for statutes, and Ranchland News was notified in September, at least 14 days prior to the hearing, first hearing. There was the mailing sent out within 1,320 feet. The sign was posted. The applicant did confirm that just earlier, I think yesterday, that the signs were still up, and they were verifying that that was still there, and they provided their mineral rights notice. The proposed final plat also meets all of the subdivision regulations, and one of them is to have a variety of different types of lots and options. And so on the bottom of that slide, you can see the variety. They have 50-foot wide, 60-foot, and 70-foot wide lots to make up the maximum 308 single-family dwelling units on the proposed project and within the plat. The plat also meets Article 5 and 11 of the Elbert County subdivision regulations related to the open space, and the conservation community requirements have been met. They're going to have at least 50% open space. It's contiguous and has connectivity. It has it opened where it's going to be basically a preserve area with some passive recreation and active recreation as well. And again, their metro district will be managing the open space area to ensure that it stays in perpetuity. So Elora, as I mentioned before, had some unique things that because of the design and proximity to other jurisdictions. So the water and wastewater is going to be provided by the City of Aurora, and so once the applicant and the developer do the construction, it will turn that infrastructure part for just water, wastewater, and a lift station to the City of Aurora for them to be responsible for providing that service. The Metro District's going to be taking care of the on-site roads, the open space, the infrastructure, and as there's a condition we added to the final plat for a subdivision improvement agreement, it's very close to being finalized, and there's several IGAs also associated with this project, again, because Delbert Road is pretty much in Douglas County. The East County Line Road is predominantly in what was Arapahoe County, now City of Aurora, and a tiny little bit in Elbert County, and then utility easements and the coordination with the City of Aurora where their water sewer easements are, and where core and other electric and other utilities need to be placed on the project. So staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners find the following. The proposed final plat is in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. It meets all the criteria for the zoning regulations and the PUD that was approved, which is PD-2023-2003. It meets the requirements of the Elbert County subdivision regulations, and it will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding property. So, Community Economic Development Department recommends approval to the Board of County Commissioners for the Elora Final Plat, located at the southeast corner of Delbert Road and East County Line Road, with 5 conditions. On October 1st, the Planning Commission recommended approval to the Board of County Commissioners for the Elora Final Plat of the vote with 4 conditions by a vote of 7-0. The only difference is that the subdivision improvement agreement is still being finalized, and so we added a condition to ensure that it's going to be done. So the only change was to make sure that that final document, we've worked with Bart Greer with the Elbert County Attorney's Office, and he is assured us that it's I am down to a fine points of dotting the I's, crossing the T's. So the final plat conditions include the applicant be required to remove their public hearing signs within 7 days of the BOCC hearing. The preliminary plat, it should be final plat, I apologize, should be effective until all the fees have to be paid and conditions of approval met. The Elora developer owner shall provide documentation to Elbert County Finance Department regarding the Douglas School District, and they actually have met this condition already. So they actually have provided the school district approval of acceptance of fee in lieu. And no building or driveway permit shall be allowed on a slope of 20% or greater where it currently exists until they go through some special engineering. And we've had discussions with Elbert County Building Safety and the building official, and they're fine with this, moving forward with this condition. And then the 5th one was the executed subdivision improvement agreement is completed and acceptable to the county attorney in final form. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff at this time? Okay. I'd invite the applicant to add any additional information they feel is pertinent.
One moment while we load our presentation.
All righty.
Seems our technology changes every time I come up to the podium, but it's all getting better though, so.
Change is good.
As long as we're going in the right direction.
Oh, click share. I don't know, was that his? Okay. No, we got to find the right.
You know, while we're waiting, I could probably just get started and introduce myself and Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. It's a privilege to be in front of you again. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Kiefer. I'm with Norris Design at 1101 Bannock Street, Denver, Colorado, 80204. And I'm representing Miller United, the owner applicant this afternoon. And again, as I mentioned, it's a pleasure to be in front of you again. This is the final stage or step in the process that we've anticipated for the Elora project. For those of you who had been around during the original PUD, it was referred to initially as the Sterling Crossing PUD. Subsequently, we've gone through a rezoning, if you will, with a new plan and a new name. And this is the final step in front of you with the final plat. Next slide, please. So with me today, I have Dan Sheldon, the owner applicant. He'll be available to answer questions and also address the commission as well. Also, I have Kevin Lovelace from LJA Engineering. He can answer any technical questions that come up with the final plat. And then on our team, we have our traffic consultant, Mike Rocha from SM Rocha, who's not with us today, but we can answer any questions that might come up related to traffic. And then, of course, myself, who I've introduced already, Mark Kiefer. So next slide, please. So I just wanted to compliment Sandra Hoffman. It's good to see her in person, by the way, in these hearings. But she's covered a lot of the overview of this project, so I'm going to keep it fairly brief. The site itself, I just want to orient the commission one more time on the importance of this location in relation to both Elbert County, but also the region. Being located on the far northwest corner of Elbert County, it's positioned within an area that is seeing a lot of urbanizations and a lot of growth in that area, primarily because of its proximity to 470 and Aurora. It offers us several advantages as a development team because it does allow for an easier plan for access as well as utility extensions into the site, which I'll touch on in a minute. Next slide, please. But I just also want to identify a couple of key stakeholders. They are also referred to in Ms. Hoffman's presentation as referral agencies, but we also take the initiative to really reach out to a lot of these folks and meet with them directly outside of the normal referral process. And first and foremost, the surrounding residents have been primarily who we consider our most important key stakeholder in this process. So we've had several community meetings that are required both from your code, but also have had several meetings with individuals and groups outside of this project just to inform them, keep them in the loop, and also address any concerns that have come up in this process that started from the PUD rezoning portion of it all the way through this final plat. The Elbert County Planning Commission, certainly have been in front of them, and just wanted to acknowledge the Planning Commission staff, your staff, in the process. There have been many conversations, both with during our hearings at the Planning Commission, but also with your staff supporting the Planning Commission. And of course, you all, the Board of County Commissioners, who do have the final say in this process, and I think it was with your guidance through this whole endeavor that we're here today presenting our final plat. And then the City of Aurora, which I'll talk about in just a minute here, but they were also very instrumental in the success of this project, being across the street, across County Line Road, but also being a key player in the metro area's growth in this location. And then Arapahoe County, coupled with the City of Aurora and Douglas County to our west, they also have been part of this conversation, ongoing conversations as of even last week, finalizing certain aspects of this project. And then I would also want to give a plug for the Rattlesnake Fire District. Not only were they the hosts providing us a space to meet with our area residents, but they also were very much part of this conversation. And I'd want to point out, if you probably knew this already, but certainly want to acknowledge the fire chief's role in helping establish a four-way stop intersection at the corner of Delbert Road and County Line, which is incredibly important. As you probably have heard from your constituents in the past, it was just a two-way stop, and the only controlled intersection was the Delbert side, but now it's a four-way stop with a flashing stop sign. And I would attribute that success happening from Rattlesnake's fire chief. And it coincided with us starting our discussion, but I just want to say he played an important role in this whole thing, and I hope it does pan out to be a much safer intersection, which it seems like it is. And then also the Douglas County School District. What makes this project somewhat unique is that this is in Douglas County School District, not Elizabeth School District. So all of our conversations, as Ms. Hoffman had mentioned in her staff report, all of our agreements are with the Douglas County School District, and we just recently consummated that agreement with them, so they basically have signed off on this program. And then the group that will be building this project is the Elora Metropolitan Districts. And the only thing I wanted to mention there very briefly, and it probably wasn't mentioned directly in the staff report, but this project entails only private roads, all infrastructure that is to be built internal to the project is through the Metro District. The water lines and sewer lines that are associated with the Aurora intergovernmental agreement, Aurora would ultimately take those over, but they would be built by the Metro District. And the only two pieces of public infrastructure are those areas outside of Aurora, meaning County Line Road and Delbert Road. So working in tandem with those jurisdictions, and as Sandra had mentioned, a lot of the IGA and the attached, I'm working on the SIA and the attached IGAs. That's all part of that overall plan to develop that whole quadrant or that whole intersection, Delbert and County Line Road. Next slide, please. So I just want to touch on briefly the water supply. I think you've heard this several times already, but the intergovernmental agreement, which was signed back in September of last year rather, it involves a utility plan that allows water and sewer to be delivered to this site by the city of Aurora. They've agreed to that, as well as the applicant. So that part of this program is done right now. The important thing to note here is that it really is all Aurora's water, and there are no wells being contemplated for this site at all, so not impacting any adjoining property owners or neighbors to the site. Next slide, please. I think Sandra touched on this very well, but just the PUD zoning was done last December, last year. The preliminary plat was approved in May of this year, and today rather, we're looking at the final plat, final step in this process. Just want to again acknowledge the Board of County Commissioners, the key stakeholder here, that looking at this timeline, just from a personal note, it's been very efficient, and it indicates that Elbert County is indeed open for business, and the objective within your housing policy and your master plan and other associated policies would indicate that you are embracing new housing for new residents within this area of Elbert County, and I just want to acknowledge that on behalf of your policies at the board level. So next slide, please. I just want to also touch on our community outreach program I touched on before, but one thing that also makes this project somewhat unique, and I would attribute that to my client, Dan Sheldon. He's emphasized that we have to have a very robust community outreach program. So in addition to just the standard neighborhood meetings that are required in the code, we did go out and meet with area residents, as well as set up a website, an active website where people can access both these presentations as well as any updates through the process. Next slide, please. And one thing I wanted to point out too, and you've heard this in our previous discussions on the zoning as well as the preliminary plat, part of that whole outreach program changed the plan considerably. When we first started this project, this plan looked completely different than what we had presented to the Planning Commission and the board in the original zoning. And it was partially the result of our communications with our neighbors. And it resulted in this conservation subdivision where we created this large buffer to the south as well as a buffer to the west. The original plan basically brought lots right up to the southern property line, large lots, but really right up to our neighbors to the south, as well as to the east. So now we have a fairly substantial buffer, and then also meet the guidelines that, or the criteria for your conservation subdivisions within your subdivision ordinance. So I would say this is the result of those communications and that outreach that Dan Sheldon really emphasized in this whole process. Next slide, please. So the final plat, you can see, is really identical or close to identical from what was approved in the PUD. The lots, the street layouts, the open space, and everything else is being finalized here in this application, and it is based primarily on what the PUD that was approved back in December of last year. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, go back. I jumped over a couple things. Just wanted to summarize a couple points on the final plat. As I mentioned, it meets the criteria of your conservation subdivision, which is over 50%. I think we're at about 54, 57% open space, counting parks as well as the passive areas. There's a 5-acre commercial site on the very northwest corner of the property. And then 2 developed park sites for the neighbors, both, or the new future residents with this project, but also it's a public park, meaning that any neighbor could also use these park sites as well. And then, as I mentioned, increased buffers to the properties to the east and to the south, and culminating in 308 single-family lots. Next slide, please. So again, recapping what Ms. Hoffman had mentioned in her presentation, we believe that these approval criteria are met by this application. One, that it's served by a sufficient water supply, and as evidenced by the Aurora IGA and the provisions that are contained within that, Aurora serving this site in perpetuity for utilities, both water and sewer. Similar in the second point there, sanitary sewer is covered by the city of Aurora. And then the third option, or the third criteria here, as it identified potential geological conditions that need to be addressed during the construction portion of this project, which were brought up both in the referral process, but also by our civil engineer and our geotech consultants. So we're acknowledging that we are in compliance with those requirements for Elbert County. And then whether the final plat, the submittal itself, comports to the both the Elbert County zoning resolution and the subdivision resolution. Frankly, we wouldn't be here today if it did not meet those criteria, so we feel that it meets those. And then whether or not this application, the final plat, is in conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. And as I mentioned, when you look at the context of this project in relation to the rest of both Elbert County but the metro area, it really is a logical extension of urban development, suburban development in this location of the county. So with that, final slide, just any questions or comments. I'd also invite Dan Sheldon to address any specific questions that might come up from you. Thank you.
Thanks. Dan, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Dan Sheldon, Miller United Real Estate, 6900 East Bellevue Avenue, Suite 300, Greenwood Village, Colorado 80111. Just a couple things. I'd like to say thank you to Sandra Hoffman and all of your staff. They've done a very nice job through this process. As Mark mentioned, it has been a fairly streamlined process. It's been quick, and I think that's a tribute to the top-down governance that you have here. So thank you for making that process an enjoyable one. Second, I should note that we do accept the 5 conditions that staff has suggested. Third, I'd like to tell you that we're excited to break ground on the project. It is our hope that we're breaking ground with approvals today. We would be breaking ground probably in February. And we're looking forward to getting that going. Once we get some houses coming up out of the ground, we will start marketing the 5 acres of retail at the corner. And I think that with the activation of the Elora site, what's happening across the street in Douglas County and across the street to the north in Aurora, all 3 of those projects are going to be coming online right around the same time. I think this being the only corner that's got retail available to it vis-a-vis the zoning, we really think that there's going to be some viable opportunity for some good retail services for the community. And finally, as the election approaches, and 2 of you are rolling off the board, I understand, so good luck to both of you with what you end up doing, your next endeavors. And Commissioner Schroeder, good luck to you in your next term, or your midterm, through the rest of the way through your term now. So I am here to answer questions. Thank you.
Do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Schultz?
I've got a couple of questions, and it just, the four-way stop sign that was mentioned, is that a stop sign or is that a traffic light?
Right now, it is a four-way stop sign that's electrified, so it flashes. We are working on a agreement right now with Elbert County, your staff, your engineering and public works department, as well as your legal department. It's a tri-party agreement between the developer, the county, and the city of Aurora to fund some dollars into escrow for a future traffic signal. And so that will be, those monies should be available as soon as warrants are met. And I don't think Aurora will build the signal prior to warrants being met, but warrants might be met much sooner than we think. I don't know, they might be met today, but there will be money in the bank to build that signal with the approval of this project.
And my other question is, the IGA/metro districts, I got the impression there's still some work to be done to match those up.
Yeah, so the IGAs, there's really a couple different components, right? We have our subdivision improvement agreement, which we're working on right now with your staff. And as Sandy mentioned, I believe we're actually finalized and finished with it now, subject to final eyes on it from your county attorney. That document would then be approved. The IGAs are still in process, but I am in front of the City of Aurora staff and city attorney and the Douglas County staff and county attorney, and certainly with your staff, working on getting those various IGAs completed. There's 4 of them in total. And they're all scheduled to go in front of various committees in November and then for final approvals in December or early January.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I know it's been highlighted several times, but for a fairly small to medium-sized subdivision, it's pretty complex with,
Yeah.
you know, Douglas County, Arapahoe County, Elbert County, the city of Aurora, Douglas County schools, water and sewer provided from outside the county, etc. Your willingness to discuss and take on internal road maintenance, because there's not a road Elbert County is responsible for that connects to the subdivision that's in Elbert County. There was a lot to work through, and I also tremendously compliment the work you did with the community members and how willing you were to change the original concept to meet the feedback you got from them. I think it's going to be a good community, and certainly the fact that we have the only commercial corner for shoppers from 2 other counties is a first for Elbert County. And if we go back even deeper, there's been a lot of concern from, just general concern from residents in Elbert County over the years that Sterling Crossing would be annexed into Aurora. And though I love our neighbors to the north, nobody in Elbert County really wanted to have any part of the city of Aurora operating within the county. So I think it's a win all the way around. Do have one ask and a minor change on the conditions of approval. Would you object to dropping the word attorney from the last one and just approval of the agreements by the county?
That'd be fine.
Okay, I prefer that we approve them since we're the ones signing them. But we'll certainly take his input.
I'd like to get those as soon as we can come up with a final document with staff, including your attorney. I'd like to get it in front of you all then to review sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of balls in the air, and I'm really trying to check these things off.
And from discussing with the county attorney, I think it sounded like we were very close.
Okay.
I do need to open for, sorry if you have comments.
I have one question that came up, piggybacking off of Commissioner Thayer at the 4-way stop right now, and then talking about a future traffic light. I saw in the traffic study the several turn lanes, multiple through lanes. I assume those are all be constructed at the same time as the traffic light. Is that the timeline, or how does that
Not
line up?
necessarily. What will certainly happen is the intersection will get improved with our development. And when I say our development, we're developing in concert with the project across the street to the north of us in Aurora. We're working closely with that developer so that County Line Road, which we are cost sharing in, myself and that developer, including the intersection of Delbert and County Line Road, get done at the same time, get done by the same contractor, and we don't have lanes that are offset or, some wonky result. It's possible, depending again on warrants being met, and that's not something that I can control. I think it's under the purview of the city of Aurora when those warrants are met to build that signal. It's possible that that signal gets built with the intersection. It's also possible that it happens down the road sometime in the future after that intersection is built. But if that were to be the case, that intersection will get built in its full configuration to accommodate the signal that is being contemplated. So the signal will match the build out of the intersection and vice versa.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. At this point, I'd open for public comment if there is any on this project. Seeing none, I'd close public comment. If there's any final discussion.
Just had a question on the conditions. I know we're up to 5 conditions.
Could you roll back to
Yeah.
that if you could?
Our draft resolution has 3, and so just if we need to make sure we have the right
language.
the right language for those.
Thank you.
So the first 3 slides are, 3 conditions are on the slide, Chairman and Board and Commission members. The applicant were required to remove the sign. The fees need to be paid. The owner has already got number 3 done with working with Douglas County School District. Then the building one, where if there's a 20% slope now, there's some of the lots that have that, where they just have special engineering design, and that'll be worked out. Actually, I think we worked it out through the Pulte Homes. It's actually going to be a creative solution that's going to be managed, I think, somehow. We're going to, maybe a different one, but we're going to try to have it resolved that way as they're doing their development. And then number 5 was the executed subdivision improvement agreement, acceptable to the county in final form. So we would basically take the word, take the word county off. Take the word attorney, excuse me. Sorry.
I appreciate that. Also in our draft resolution, it has another additional pretty standard condition of ours, and that recordation of all appropriate documents to occur within 180 days of the Board of the County Commissioners' approval.
I'll be sure to add that to mine then. I'm sorry, I didn't, the latest. I will get that on there.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Is that 180-day recordation also acceptable? Oh, okay, so thank you. Just if it was off the mic, the applicant did indicate that adding the 180-day recordation requirement was acceptable. Do you have anything else? All righty, then I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approved Elora Final Plat FP-2023-2003 with the conditions of approval as amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this application with the conditions of approval as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. I'd accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move we close the hearing for Elora Final Plat FP-2023-2003.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. We're out of public hearing. Congratulations. Thank you for really the work that went in to make a good community acceptable to the neighbors. So, yeah.
Are you going to adjourn? No? Oh, that's right.
All righty, we have one more item, and that's just to assign a hearing date for metro districts associated with the EC East development. Do we have, we didn't have dates in the packet, so do we have
Yes, sir. We were
proposed dates?
planning on November 13th. And if the commission will allow, I was just going to read the names of the 9 metro districts just for the record.
Okay.
And those are EC East Metropolitan Districts 1 through 5, EC East Overlay Metropolitan District, EC East Industrial Metropolitan District, EC East Commercial Metropolitan District, and EC East Water and Sanitation District. So we could set the date for all of those to be heard on November 13th if that is acceptable to the commission.
Sounds good. I would,
Word.
we'll go by either. I'd accept a motion to set hearing dates for the metro districts as described for November 13th at 1 p.m. at this location.
Mr. Chair, I move that we set a hearing date for the EC East Metro Districts 9 that we've just heard to be heard on November 13th at 1 p.m. at this location.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set hearing date of November 13th at 1 p.m. at this location for the metro districts associated with EC East. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. There being no other business before us, I'm getting head nods. I would accept a motion to adjourn for the.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.